Thank you all for being here. My name is Maurice Brown. I'm the outreach coordinator for Democracy in Progress. That's the Central New York group, the Central New York chapter of NYPAN. I want to take another moment to thank Zephyr for speaking. That was phenomenal. I don't know where you are, but that was great. I want to thank Lauren, our director, Democracy in Progress director. We're going to be working with Joe Driscoll, City Council. I know you guys have heard from him, and we plan on working with Keith Rubino for Herkimer County Legislator. And I'm really looking forward to all these things, just excited to get started. But no, I'm here to introduce the 53rd Mayor of Syracuse, Ms. Stephanie A. Minor. Stephanie Minor was a product of Syracuse. Mayor Minor became interested in politics at a young age and graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor in political science and journalism from Syracuse University. Post-college, she worked for U.S. Senator Geraldine Ferrero, as well as Governor Mario Cuomo. In 1999, she received her JD from SUNY Buffalo and began working as a labor lawyer shortly after, which I think is dope. In 2002, Mayor Minor became a Syracuse Common Councilor at Large at only 31 years old, which I also think is pretty cool. And she was reelected in 2005. During her time on the council, she gained a reputation for asking tough questions and her principled leadership. On November 3rd, 2009, Stephanie A. Minor became the first woman elected mayor of Syracuse, or any of the big 5 cities in New York State, which I think is a really big deal. I actually don't know Mayor Minor personally, so I can't give a cool backstory like Arthur did. Sorry. But I will say that Mayor Minor had a big impact on my life. She probably didn't even know it. But last June, Lauren and I, we were delegate candidates for Bernie Sanders. And, yeah. Lauren was elected. I wasn't. That's not what we're talking about. But no, we had to figure out how to get to the convention. We had to figure it out. And after she was nominated, we set up a GoFundMe, and we were short about $1,500. And Mayor Minor actually donated the final $1,500 to get us to Philadelphia. And that was very big. And it's not nothing, but it needs to be noted because at the time she was a big supporter of Hillary Clinton, and we were the Bernie Sanders delegates. I don't know if you guys remember last May or June, but these groups were not the best of friends. So for her to do that at that time, that was so awesome, and I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. More recently, Mayor Minor has become my hero, because I'm a big believer that the political revolution, this what we is right now, is not a war, but it's a war. Like we're in a fight. And the fight is won by warriors, by soldiers. And she took the prerogative, she stepped up and named the city of Syracuse a sanctuary city, fighting back against the executive branch. And she's hosted Trump Tuesdays, and she's let it be known that Syracuse is a friend of the immigrant community, and we are not going to take it from the big bully in the executive branch. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce to you guys the 53rd Mayor of the City of Syracuse, Ms. Stephanie A. Minor.
Thank you very much. So, although I didn't know Maurice, obviously I knew enough that it was a smart investment for our country to make sure that people like Maurice and Lauren got to go to the convention. And obviously, I feel pretty great today because I said at the time that the reason I was doing that was because people had been kind and generous to me and encouraged me to get involved in the political process. And that's what I wanted to encourage them to stay involved in the political process, even though we supported different candidates. It is important to remember these days that a democracy is only as strong as its citizens are informed and active. And that is something that all of you here today have continued, I should say, to ensure that we will be a stronger democracy. Now, I want to say one thing to you that's going to probably be the most important thing that you hear. And that is, if any of you ladies went to the ladies' room and you don't have your car keys right now, somebody here has them. So, you can't change our country for the better if you don't get home. So, we want to make sure that you get home. So please, I won't be offended if you check in your pockets to make sure that you have your car keys with you. I also want to take a moment to recognize Zephyr. While she said that she is an FDR Democrat, she certainly seems more in the mold of Al Smith and a happy warrior to me. And I am just grateful to be able to be in her presence and to be on the same side as she is. We today, as you've heard, there are sides today. And one of the reasons that I agreed to come down here today to talk to all of you is to say thank you. Thank you for everything that you have done. After the general election in November, I felt like I had been hit in the solar plexus. And it was tough for me to get my breath. Because I thought, I don't know what happened to my country. I don't know what happened to all of these things that I believe in. And as I wrestled with what had happened, what I had realized was that I am a romantic about American history. I have been since I was very young. And I had been operating under the illusion that I think I created because it helped me get through times, that we in our country were on an inevitable march towards a more perfect union. I don't want to put that in quotes because then maybe people want to actually mean it, quoting from the preamble, that a more perfect union. See what Donald Trump has already done? I can't even use quotes accurately. I had always felt that good things and progress would be made for our country. Why? Because the women in Seneca Falls got together and they made the Declaration of Sentiments. And they said women deserve the right to vote and deserve to be full participants in society. Just down the road from my hometown, Syracuse. That FDR said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And that Martin Luther King said the arc of history is long, but it bends towards progress. And these were the things that I held dear to me as I moved through my career as an activist and as a politician and as an elected official. And then November happened. And I thought, well, what about FDR? What about Seneca Falls? What about Martin Luther King? And what I realized is that in my romanticism about American history, I had forgotten the most important lesson. And the most important lesson of American history is that the reason we can become a more perfect union is because we struggle together to do it. That it doesn't happen in a vacuum. That when the ladies of Seneca Falls got together to talk about women being full participants in our society if they had the franchise, they had to wait 72 years for women to get the right to vote nationally. 72 years. It didn't happen overnight. When FDR made his speech about the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, it was in the height of the Great Depression, where people openly questioned whether open democratic societies were going to be able to exist because of the state of our economy. And that when Martin Luther King talked about the arc of progress, or the arc of history bending towards progress, he was doing it with a full experience of having students sit in at lunch counters, of putting older women and younger children facing Bull Connor's dogs. Nothing happens in our country. Progress is not made unless people of goodwill become active and demand that it happens. And I'm here today to tell you that, as Zephyr said, we're in a revolutionary moment. That is what's happening because you have insisted that it happens, because you have decided to participate, because you have decided that it is no longer acceptable in our democracy to howl at the TV in private to just click on Facebook and say I like or I dislike. That you have decided to get up and get active. And whether that's going to airports to protest the ban on people coming into our country, whether that's marching with pink hats by the millions, whether that is coming on a Sunday, taking off your entire Sunday in March to come here and meet with each other and to listen patiently and politely to what has to be said. I say this to you, though, to tell you that there's a second lesson that we can learn from these moments of great turmoil where our country has come out better the other end. And that is that they are long and sustained. That you cannot expect, nor should you tell yourselves or others, that this is going to be a short battle. It is not. It is going to be a long, sustained battle. A battle of ideas and a battle of passion. And into that battle of ideas and passions, you need to remain committed. Because we're going to lose some of them. It's just inevitable. We are going to lose some of them. But we're going to win more than you expect if you continue to make sure that you're doing the things that you do. But you also have to remember that each of you, each of us, has a responsibility in our democracy. A responsibility to be informed and a responsibility to participate. And that's why I was so heartened by the panel of officials that you had talking about local government. I am a great believer in local government. And for too long, local government has kind of been ignored by the progressive community and by the Democratic Party. And we're seeing now what the result of that is. That our bench is very thin. And that in that vacuum, a lot of other people who don't have the views that we have are making decisions. All of you need to do everything that you can. Join your party, go door to door, support good candidates, run for office. So that we can make sure that our ideas are in every level of government. And I have to tell you, from the caliber of the candidates that were here on the panel, our candidates are much better. Our candidates are better than the other side. I would vote for every single person out there. But it's up to you to make sure that they get the support that they need in any ways that you can do it. It's up to you to remember that you can't just say, well, we won on Friday with health care, I got to get back to my life and do the other things that I used to do with my free time. There are still letters to the editor that need to be written. There are still congressmen and congresswomen who need to be held accountable for positions that they're taking. There is still lots and lots of work to be done. But all of you have already shown that you can do it. And I say this to you to remind you that when it gets tough, when you get frustrated, when you get disappointed, remind yourselves of the people from our history that have felt much worse and battled much greater odds. Susan B. Anthony had no right in the world to think that she would start a movement where our country would look at a gender that at that point wasn't allowed to own property, was not allowed often to speak in public, and to say to this country, women need to vote and they will never be equal members of our society until they have that right. She conceived of a different world, and she was able to see it, not in her lifetime, but because of the work that she did. Martin Luther King looked into people's eyes that hated him and his race simply based on their race. He had no reason in the world to believe that he could change the hearts and mind of an entire country. And yet he did. FDR believed that we could survive the Great Depression and not rip each other apart. And he was right. This moment of crisis that we find ourselves in is an opportunity for all of us to push our country in the direction that we know it needs to go in. Because the only time that American history has moved in a progressive direction is when Americans, citizens, have stood up and demanded that their government move it in that direction. So thank you for standing shoulder to shoulder with me and doing all of that.